Okay. Technology. I think it's an interesting topic. What comes to mind for me, technology? I think of like a pen and a pad, right? It might sound stupid, or a pencil. I don't. I think too many people just think of like, electricity, electrical appliances, phones, smartphones in particular. I absolutely. I often say I don't understand, but really it's I understand and I think it's stupid. I don't get why people are obsessed with getting the new iPhone, the next, anyone that lines up for the next tablet or something, I just think they're idiots. It makes no sense. It's a gimmick. It's not new. Like, okay, other things I think of when I think of great technology, like aeroplanes and the telephone and radio and television. I'm trying to think. Just all of those kind of big breakthroughs. Computers, definitely, but computers started in like the 40s or the 50s, and the internet started in, oh, I don't know, 80s, 90s. That's when it sort of took off. I think some people will think of like, oh, Tumblr. Tumblr's great, and Facebook. No, those are just stupid programs that I don't think are even, or websites or whatever, companies that aren't particularly good, in my opinion, at what they do, and they just use the amazing technology. So there's a few things I just wanted to get off my chest about technology, misconceptions and stuff. Let's start with, there's a bunch of things that come to mind. One thing is things being overly user friendly. I absolutely hate downloading programs and then they update regularly, automatically. That's something that just is so annoying. Just imagine, you trying to think of something you buy some fruit, and then the next day they say, someone calls you and says, we've got some better apples now. Do you want to bring in, or we're going to clean them up. Bring in your apples and we'll dust them off and make them even better. I'd be annoyed. I'd be like, just go away. I already got my apples. I'm happy. I just feel like it's, you want a product. You want to buy something, you've got it. That's it. You don't want constant like, oh, there's a new version. There's an updated version. That should be only happening once a year, once every 2 years or something, when you've actually made a real improvement, a real breakthrough. I don't want to see all the little fixes that you've done. I don't want constant notifications. I know some things you can change that, but it's so frustrating. So I hate that. I also hate, tying in with that, the number of people that think they're like tech savvy, which I guess they technically are, because they can, touch a screen and like swipe, and like I'm really good with technology. I can use, Microsoft Word, and like, they can just type things. They don't even know basic shortcuts, but they can use a computer because they can point and click, and everything's so user friendly. This is part of why I don't like, from my experience, using Apple products, a lot of them, because I find they're so user friendly, but like you have no idea what it's actually doing. I like control, simplicity. I like to be able to right click, for crying out loud. I don't understand some of that philosophy. To me, my favorite program probably on Windows is Explorer. I could just go around to different folders and I can see what there is. I remember thinking about, how does it actually store this stuff? And I remember figuring out a lot of how it must work. And I realized it makes complete sense why deleting is so quick, and why moving files can often be really quick, but copying takes much longer. A lot of people, I don't think they realize what it's doing. And it's not like you have to read a book or learn from someone. You can just think and figure out what is it doing when it moves a file. What is it actually doing? It doesn't move it. It just changes its mind what it's called, okay, where it is in its indexing system, okay. It doesn't move all the contents from one place to another. I don't think people understand that. And when it deletes files, it doesn't delete them, it just forgets about them. That's why you can recover deleted files if you do it soon enough. Anyway, another thing in relation to user-friendly things is the dumbing down of things, the simplification. It almost becomes this stupid art, like minimalist, like, look at my program which has nothing there and just like one little thing, press the plus, and like even complete morons can use it because they're just, oh, click on the plus, oh, add, and then they think, oh, do you want me to show you how to create a new slideshow thing? It's so easy to use. Like, rather than, what I want is a good design, but with heaps of features that you can easily access. I want to see options, settings, like to be able to set things in different ways, and for it to be intuitive, for it to have lots of intuitive shortcuts, and to be able to add more things. It's a bit like I was playing Dead Space 2, and it has the controls, it makes use of every button and they're consistent, whereas other games, half the time you press buttons, they do nothing. It doesn't make use of what it's got. So anyway, okay, let's move on to another thing, innovation. I feel like I don't want to, I know, Steve Jobs passed away. It's kind of sad. Maybe he was I don't know if he was a really nice person, or maybe he was innovative in some ways. But just this idea of like the iPhone being like a great invention, I think is completely stupid. Unless I'm missing something, it's a gimmick. It's a good thing, right? But many different companies have now done it. It's just taking existing technologies and putting them in one spot, and it's really just a matter of, it was inevitable. We reached the 21st century. All those amazing inventions invented by different people throughout the years, that built on the work of all these scientists and people that were investigating, people that were really intelligent, that came up with the right theories, for things like electromagnetism, I don't know, aerodynamics, whatever other things there are, even just coding itself, like Alan Turing contributed to computers before they even existed. And yet we act like this people that like just take all that stuff and make it small and put it in one spot and then market it well, geniuses. The technology of computers themselves, transistors, like a camera, what else, a speaker and microphone, all of that existed ages ago and was invented by different people who get absolutely no credit, even though we're doing the exact same thing. I'm sure the microphone and speaker work in essentially the same way as the earliest ones did, with only modifications of, just certain things. It's still the same basic idea. Anyway, so yeah, I'm not saying I know exactly what the biggest changes were, but I just think it's a misconception. I remember someone compared Steve Jobs with the guy who invented penicillin, and the fact that it's this free thing that's for everyone that has saved millions of lives, and yet he's not famous. I had to remember his name. I'm assuming it was a man. Not that it matters, but yeah. So yeah, going back to the user-friendly and the fact that everyone thinks they're tech savvy, that's very frustrating for me, because I really like programming, and I feel like I'm 90% self-taught. I learnt QBasic when I was in year 11, and it was like discovering a new world, just that freedom to just think of anything and make it happen. And then I remember making this weird matrix stuff appear on the screen, and all I did was look up, how do you get it to generate a random number? Okay, how do you make the writing green? And that was pretty much, I think, all I needed. And then you just get it to pick lots of random characters. You just need to convert numbers to characters, and then you just make this random stuff appear. I remember I was trying to find all these sums, these infinite sums, just because I was keen and interested. And then there are people that, and then later I learned Java at university a bit, and I make these 3D. I'm not like bragging. I'm like, it's a passion of mine. It's something I like. And then these, so I've made 3D graphics with movement, and it was such a fun experience. And I was, thinking, how can I do that? And then I had all these ideas. I got it to take basically lots of photos from different angles and then use a program to make a video, and it was so smooth in it. And then I thought, how can I make it even smoother? I'd add in, sort of blurring by basically getting it to do multiple photos and add them together, and I figured out a way to do that, and then it worked. And it's just, I don't get any special attention for that. No one cares. People always assume that you've read it in a book, someone taught you, you've built upon what already existed, never giving you credit for having figured it out yourself. And then they're like brilliant tech savvy people because they can press buttons. And I also hate how people will tell you off if you've never seen something before. There'll be an app and I'll be like, how do I send this message? How do I send, I can't see where the button is. You just swipe it. It's like, oh, how the hell was I meant to know that? I don't know. And the way they tell you off sometimes. I'm just generalizing, but it's frustrating. So just going back, I guess, to some pet peeves with technology, with modern like apps and stuff and programs. Like I said, I hate updates. It suggests that your original product is not that good. If you have to update it every day, every week, and it has to. Another thing that annoys me, it won't like. I remember for iTunes, it'd feel like the updates were so often, but it wouldn't be like it up, downloaded a few hundred kilobytes for some new features or whatever. It'd be like download a 70 megabyte brand new version, uninstall the old one, reinstall this, like install the new one. It's ridiculous. I hate that. And I also hate this philosophy. Again, it's this user friendly, the phone will do everything for you and it just auto syncs in the background constantly. That's why I don't like that. I like control. I don't like, I don't even know how to turn off, like Chrome will keep asking, do you want me to remember this password? No, don't remember anything. It's just, let me just do it. Let me just have a tool and use it. It's like that paperclip. Everyone hated that thing from Microsoft, and yet everything's become like that. That's what it feels like. If you don't want to pick up a hammer and it says, do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? Like, just shut up. Could you believe that if your hammer was like talking all the time, or like updating, or you try to pick up your hammer and it says, sorry, I'm upgrading right now. I'm halfway through upgrading, and you think, seriously, I can't use it right now? Or it's as you're about to swing, it disappears and it's like, oh, it's restarting, it's installing upgrades. Great. I've had that happen at school. I was in the middle of a lesson, the laptop just turns off without explanation. It was like it was possessed. Things just started closing, minimizing, and then it just restarted, installing updates. That's another thing. I know Office Space, the movie, made fun of this, but it'll be like a progress bar. It's just so useless. The timing of it makes no sense. It'll go 33% straight away, and then 34, 35, 30, 70, 72, 98%. And then it'll stay at 98% for like a minute, a solid minute, and then 99, 100%. And then it'll say like, that phase is complete. And then it starts the next phase. And you're like, how many phases are there? What is the point of that? And it'll have like a number of times I've been like downloading a file or something, copying, and it'll say like, you've got 3 hours and 48 minutes left. And then a bit later it'll say you've got 6 minutes left. And then it'll say 5 hours left. It's like, what is the point? You clearly have no idea how long this is going to take. Or you're basing it on these terrible like heuristic estimates. Okay, so some other, I'm just really passionate about this stuff. Misconceptions, I think, hardware, I guess it's to do with hardware and software. I'm amazed by the hardware that exists these days in terms of, even a floppy disk amazes me. To have 1.4 megabytes or whatever, right? I don't know how many people understand what that means. That means 1,400,000 bytes. Each byte is 8 bits, which is like on or off. But if you think of just the amount of stuff, let's say a byte is roughly like a character. So it's like 1.4 million characters, like letters or spaces and stuff. So I think that's bigger than a lot of books, okay? In this little plastic thing has the same amount of information as an entire book. Keep in mind that book could have anything in it, whatever you choose. You could have a book with facts about sports statistics over the last 50 years, 100 years, you can have the Lord of the Rings or something, which is, creative. You got to understand, there's so much freedom for what information you have, what format, and that's amazing. And then you've got CDs, 700 megabytes, Blu-rays, 25 gigabytes or 50 gigabytes or whatever, and USBs, they get just so tiny and convenient. I guess part of what I'm leading on to is the fact that we don't use technology for anything useful, anything amazing. Facebook you've got the most amazing technology. We can connect to people all across the world within seconds. And we have stupid internet memes, some of which are funny, fine. It's creative or it's amusing. But is that the peak of civilization? I mean, it is, literally. This is the peak of civilization in the universe, as far as we know. And we use it to send ourselves, lolcats and just really irrelevant, stupid, personal, things that we think are funny. I don't know. Look, to be human is whatever. People have relationships. things going on, but I don't know. I just hate the like that juxtaposition of the most amazing technology that has ever existed with the way that teenagers text these days, and they're complete, like, not all of them, but I'm saying things like there's no grammar, emojis are okay, I guess, but they misspell things, they take shortcuts, they're just completely killing the English language. And I'm not like a strict, oh, it has to be that way just because. There's a reason. It's clarity. It's making it clear what you're saying. If you don't have capitals, if you don't have full stops, it's not clear what you're saying. It becomes so ambiguous. The English language is ambiguous even when you're completely clear. So it's very important to get those things right. And also, yeah, a lot of their attitude, like just taking it for granted, not appreciating who created it or how amazing it is. I know Louis C.K. joked about that, like being on the plane and, oh, the Wi-Fi is not going to work for a short period of time. And, did you partake in the miracle of flying? It's ridiculous. So yeah, going back to that hardware though, how amazing it is. Like, especially just the size, the amount of memory and the speed they can make calculations at. Floating point calculations, like, you've got like gigaflops or teraflops. I guess a lot of home PCs now, it's in the gigahertz, right? It's thousands of millions of calculations per second, which people use for the most. I mean, okay, pornography might be popular, whatever, but using a computer for, like, Facebook, all these trivial things, I don't know. I just think it's crazy. Like, I'm not saying I always use a computer solely for like really high purpose things. There's all kinds of random things you use it for. Music is good, videos, but there are times when I try to write programs to solve interesting mathematical things or to make patterns, to create graphics, my own stuff that I've been, like, tried to make up. But yeah, it just bugs me how much power there is and people don't appreciate it, and we use it for such terrible things. Like, that's why I enjoy playing old video games. Just Nintendo games, to me, are so cool. It's such an amazing thing that we should appreciate that it exists. It's only existed, video games have only existed for 20, 30 years. That's it. Like, out of the entire 13,000 million year history of the universe, or even humans, 50,000 years or whatever, 100,000 years, just the last 30 years we got this stuff, and people, like, still, kids dismiss things because they're old. It's such a stupid attitude. But yeah, again, sorry, with the technology, I am impressed with the hardware level. With software, it's such a mix. I think there's so many awful programs out there. I feel like the standards are quite low. Again, it's sort of like software is what the coders write to achieve certain things. There are definitely some very good programs out there. I like Notepad++. It seems simple, lightweight, does what I want it to do. There are a few other programs, and I'm sure there are impressive things. I like video games. I'm very impressed with some of, like, how did they manage to make this world, and it's got so much detail. I mean, I know a Blu-ray has a lot of data it can store, and you can be very efficient, but then you just turn this knob and it just turns the camera, and it's like you're in that place, and the collision detection and the mechanics. I know a lot of it builds upon what already exists, and people make physics engines and then games use it, but it blows my mind, and I think people don't appreciate that. They don't understand how sophisticated that is. That's something that I haven't managed to do yet, is like proper mechanics. I was going to try to make like a little Angry Birds game with, like, I was going to call it Upset Pigeons or something. It's retarded. And you, like, throw something and just trying to figure out, okay, when it impacts, then how does it transfer, its momentum or whatever into these things, and then if you've got two objects touching, how do they interact? Like, and I felt it was, like, really tricky. I didn't manage to do it. I didn't spend long on it, but that's something that I think, yeah, like even Angry Birds, that like mathematically, that's pretty involved. I don't think people understand that, or at least maybe there's some shortcuts in engineering. I haven't done engineering before, so maybe there are some clever ideas, but imagine you have to have these lines connecting objects, and they have a point where they pivot, and there might be a certain amount of friction or tension, and if there's too much tension, then it can break or snap. Anyway, So yeah, I don't know. I think I'll try to end it here. I think I'm just sort of frustrated with technology. I don't, and people's misconceptions about it. I think it's amazing what exists, what's possible, and yet the way it's being misused, or just the amount of terrible software that just bulks everything up and does so much unnecessary stuff in the background, trying to make it easier, but not giving me any control. Automatic updating. I have no idea what Google Play services is doing. It's on safe mode. I knew none of my apps were bad, but it's still eating it up. I don't know what it's doing, but it's so annoying that there's not like a. I know that it's something stupid, that it's something unnecessary, and yeah. Anyway, so I guess I should try to focus on the positives though. Like, but that's the thing. I'm just so amazed, like impressed with even computers from 20 years ago. That blows my mind what they're capable of, and yeah, how much what what we have access to. And so I just think people should appreciate it and understand what are the actual like impressive breakthroughs that have occurred, not just like, oh, the next iPhone. I wasn't impressed with the first iPhone. Not that I use them much, but I actually absolutely hate Apple stuff in general. Just the philosophy, the way they're designed. You have no idea what it's actually doing. And yeah, I'm just really passionate about programming. So please understand, like, if you want to be like a computer savvy person, like, learn programming. Yeah, until then, I find it an insult. You're not. It's like saying you're a musician because you can play an E minor chord on a guitar poorly. Like, that's me. I'm not a guitarist. That's all I can do. I'm absolutely awful. I like playing piano, but unless you've really got some experience, you can't call yourself a musician or anything else. So don't say you're a computer kind of person if you can't program in at least one or two languages. But anyway, all right, I'll leave it there. Bye for now.